welcome Patrick to Metallarium Pages. It's a great pleasure to talk with you about Near Death Condition, this new album, Essence from the Mundane, and more things relating to extreme death metal world. Starting with the question, what are your memories since the beginning with Near Death Conditions, especially with the first album, Delusional Perceptions of Reality from 2004?
Yeah,
Cause I always think that your first album was The Disembodied and Spiritual Spheres from 2011.
yeah. Actually, the Disembodied is our first album, our first real album. I'd say Delusional Perception of Reality was more like a demo, I'd
Oh, really?
say, and yeah, we have recorded it all by ourselves. We have released it ourselves. It hasn't been spread that much, and we've been considering this record more as a demo than a real album. So for us, for Near Death Condition, I think the first real record is the Disembodied in Spiritual Spheres.
Ah, okay.
Yeah,
So among the first album and the second one, there are 7 years of difference. Why did you
yeah.
delay 7 years to release on a new album that at that time on that time? And the sign with unique leader at that moment was a huge impact
Yeah.
for you, cause most brutal people know you up for the second album. And how was the first release with unique leader at that time when Eric was behind the label?
It took us 7 years to release the Disembodied because we had a lot of lineup changes, and we've composed the Disembodied years before it's released, and then we have sent demo or promo pack to different labels, and we got Unique Leader Records who showed interest for and after this it took a few months before the album was released because there is the promo period between the signing and the release of the album. And yeah, it has a really huge impact for us because with Unique Leader Records, we've been spread around the world. Before we were known in France and Switzerland only, and then with Unique Leader Records, we had our albums spread and distributed around the world, and it was a huge impact. Yeah.
Mhm. Okay. I've been listening to these four albums from Near Death Conditions from to Disney one. So, and each one is very different. Cause delusional perception of reality is death metal in the old way with modern elements. Then the disembodied spiritual spheres is something more brutal and technical stuff. But when Involving Tower's Extinction was released by the music there was brutal and had sub-symphonic elements parts like the songs, for example, in Between the Dying and the Dead and and Intelligent Designs. And
Yeah.
also there you use some dissonant elements too. So why the music from Near Death Condition is constantly changing with new forms and new ages? Cause that have for, because sometimes cause that's evolve or that changes has negative effects on the fans many times because they sometimes people expect the same in the next album.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. Sometimes people expect the same, but I'd say that as a musician, as an artist, when we compose music, it reflects something that's happening inside of us. And as a human being, we are constantly evolving, and the result is that our music or our art is also evolving with our own evolution, if I can say. And I think this is the reason why these albums are very different. They have been done in different times, and when the original was done, it was more something like, yeah, I'd say we were more influenced by old school death metal bands, and then with Disembodied, we wanted to spread our hatred towards the world or something like that. With Evolving Towards Extinction, it was more, we more wanted to have this atmosphere, these symphonic parts, and yeah, I think that's the music is evolving as the musicians are evolving.
No,
Maybe
okay.
that's the answer I can
Okay,
give you.
that was perfectly well. So now I've been listening many nights the new album Essence from the Mundane, and I saw that the band changed again the sound and the
Yeah.
way. This is completely different from the
Yeah.
first three, cause you are more technical in some parts and with some dissonant sounds and the growls change completely
Yeah.
with something more visceral and very similar with the style of Luc Lemay into Obscuren in 1998 and albums from Gorguts at that time. So why did you delay 8 years to release this new album? And why did you change again the music way with Near Death Condition? Because with
Yeah.
Involving Towards Extinction, I felt some dissonant presence there. But now you have the most listener riffs here, no, in this new album.
Yeah. First thing is that there happened a lot of lineup changes during our career, and between Evolving Towards Extinction and Ascent from the Monday, the same happens. The lineup changes. I decided to work with different people, and I had a slightly different approach to the composition too. To have some different vibes, some different atmospheres. About the vocals, for example, I wanted something very different. Vocals are often used in death metal as a rhythm instrument, and for this album, I wanted something more, how can I say, atmospheric in the vocals, even if it's brutal, but it's more in the atmospheric side. And yeah, I think the time needed between Evolving Towards Extinction and Ascent from Mundane is one reason for a different sound for the album. And the other reason is the lineup changes. And as a musician, I'm constantly evolving. I want to, when something pleases me in an album I did, I want to explore this path a bit more for the next record, and this is something I did with Ascent from the Monday.
Okay. That's nice to hear that. So, another detail of this new album is that you pick a pain from Richie Sebastiano called Resurrection.
Yeah.
So, why did you decide to take an old pain to cover your new album? And was this idea of pain of cover called Resurrection have to do with the 8 years of delay of this new album?
Yeah. First, I've always liked old paintings for album covers. That's a personal thing, but I've always like this. This is a reason why I've tried to find a painting that was fitting the idea of the album. And why is this specific painting, the Resurrection, is because actually the Resurrection is a symbol of self-development, actually. And this album, Ascent from the Mundane, is about self-development. And this is the reason why we've used this painting for the record.
Okay. And why didn't you think about doing with Paolo Girardi, Eliran Cantor, or Adam Burke, who has a similar approach to Richie Sebastiano with this oil subject?
I think that it's just how things happen. I've found this painting. It was fitting the idea. I love the colors of the painting. I love the everything in the painting, and I didn't want to explore more to find another thing, another painting or another cover. And yeah, we went with this.
Okay. So, Well, as I said in the first question, we will talk about other matters relating to the extreme metal world. We spoke about the band, the new album,
Yeah.
and more things related. Now we will speak about other subjects. So when I think in Switzerland and I talk about metal bands there, the names
Mhm.
like Hellhammer, Celtic Frost,
Yeah.
Triptychon, and Messiah came to my mind every time. But
Yeah.
recently, the only bands that I know from your country are you, Requiem, and Kakotanasi. So why the huge movement from the 80s with bands that I mentioned at the beginning of this question disappear almost completely nowadays? Because at the 80s, all the world want to play like the bands of your country.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I remember Helmer was a huge influence for even American death metal bands.
Yes, yes, yes. Even for the
Yeah,
South
I
American
don't
scene.
know what really happens to these bands actually, but maybe they have influenced the extreme metal scene in the 80s. And then these bands that were influenced by Helmer or Celtic Frost have evolved and have created a different style, different music style, I'd say. And yeah, maybe these old bands um, were, I don't know, maybe not extreme enough for the scene, the new scene that was growing in the late 80s, the 90s. Maybe that's a reason. I know about the other bands you've talked about, Requiem, for example, and yeah, they've been playing for quite a while now, and their music approach is more brutal. I think that Helmer or Celtic Frost or Messiah that were more
Yeah.
thrash sounding, I think, and Requiem is really more like a death metal band or something like that. Maybe this can explain why these bands have not disappeared but have have been overwhelmed by these new bands, if I can say that.
Okay, okay, okay. So I mentioned that because last year I spoke with Ralph from Requiem, the bass player there,
Yeah,
and
okay.
he told me that the support in Switzerland it's a very low from especially from the
Yeah,
government, from the people, because when you talk about the music there in Switzerland, they don't think about you are a musician, you are perhaps and it's a hobby, not a
yeah,
full work job. So you think like that, or is perhaps you have other approach to support?
yeah, yeah. Yeah, actually, I think like that. Uh, my experience is the same because I've always thought that with near-death condition, we've been more awaited outside our country than in Switzerland. And yeah, it happens that we've played in Switzerland in front of a very small crowd. A few people were coming to see us, and when we went to play outside of Switzerland, a lot of people were coming, and we were really waited. The feedback was big, was very important, and in Switzerland is different. I don't know why. I really don't know why. Maybe French bands have no success in France. Maybe Italian bands have less success in Italy. I don't know if it's the case with other countries, but in Switzerland, it's yeah. I've been playing in the underground scene for more than 20 years, and it has always been the same actually.
Okay, okay,
So
okay.
yeah, I agree with Requiem with what they told.
Yeah, okay. So
Yeah.
a detail that I've been seeing in all countries and mostly into the death metal bands is that many of them decide to use a well-known drummer behind the brutal stuff, and you use for this new album Kevin Paradise from France and for the Benacted album to record this new one. So for that, how will the band do for concerts once they are fully restored, especially in Europe to play alive this new album?
Yeah, we have not planned to play live this album actually. We have
Okay.
worked. yeah, we have worked together because we all come from different parts of the world. The bassist is from the United States. We are two from Switzerland. Magnus, the vocalist, and I. Kevin Paradis is session drummer for this record. Yeah, and the purpose it was to record this album and to have the best musician as possible, the best musician possible to do what was important for this album, but without having in mind that we will be playing this live. I don't know what will happen in the future, but at the moment it's not something that we have planned.
Okay, okay. So, into this matter of the drummer, why didn't you think of a Swiss drummer? Perhaps Florent Duployer from Kakotanasi, because I
Mhm.
read a lot of good comments about his work on a
Yeah,
new album with Cenotaph, with Focal Dystopia, Infiltrated Menken, and obviously with his band, no, Kakotanasi.
yeah, yeah. For near death condition, it was quite hard to get a drummer. We've been playing as a live band for 5 years between the Disembodied and Evolving Towards Extinction,
Mhm.
with a stable lineup, I'd say, and with a drummer. But it was quite hard to find someone who was motivated to play with us. We were not well known. It's a lot of work to play near death condition songs. Sometimes people have other things to do and don't want to be part of the band. That's what I've experienced with near death condition. Now I prefer to ask a drummer I've worked with another project, Kevin Paradis. I've worked with him with another project, so that was easier for me to work with him, even if it was a session drummer and that we wouldn't play live. But
Mhm.
of course, I think that there are good drummers, excellent drummers in Switzerland. The thing is that also Switzerland is a small country, but when we have to hear together, sometimes the distance are rather big. So
Mhm.
it's not always easy to work with a local drummer who is motivated enough, good enough, and close enough to to the other band members.
Okay, okay. Well, not nice to hear that. So, we're very close to end this interview. So, what are you think about the extreme metal movement today? Is really saturated, perhaps or not, for you. And
Mm.
do you have some new recommendations to hear for our Metalerian viewers?
Yeah, I have to say that I don't listen to a lot of extreme metal. Actually, I'm
Okay.
more into other stuff. But yeah, I've been liking a lot of recent black metal bands in the extreme metal more than death metal actually.
Okay.
I love the kind of oppressive black metal, such as Rebirth of Nefast, for example. Or in Switzerland, you have a project called DSKNT, which is a kind of oppressive black metal that I like. In
Mhm.
death metal, I would recommend, for example, bands such as Grave Miasma that I like a lot,
Okay.
Crypt, and more recently a band called Fossilization that I think is doing something different from what is the standard death metal nowadays.
Oh, okay. Nice to hear that. So, well, we're talking about this extreme metal movement nowadays.
Yeah.
As you can see, many new styles, many subgenres, a lot
Mm.
of new things come around with new releases, new albums, etc., etc. So, into this matter, and you played extreme metal. So, why the extreme metal continues to grow up without nothing to do with the metal from the 80s and 90s? Why? What do you think about you? I have to do more like the 80s and 90s, and then I have to do with that because if we try to hear near that condition, it's not having to do with the death metal from the 80s, from the 90s. It's a death metal from 2000s. For
Mhm.
why? Why this? Why I think it's a back for all extreme metal musicians that loves to play more faster, more
Yeah.
technical, more I don't know.
Yeah, I don't really know why it happens like that, but I think that maybe this is my point of view. I've been listening to death metal for many years. I've started in the 90s, so I've seen the scene growing up. And yeah, back in the days, the purpose was to be, I think, different from everything that was done before, more extreme, more outrageous. And then everything, or almost everything, seemed to be done. And bands wanted to be more technical, more fast, more brutal. And yeah, I think some rules have been put in this genre to have such things, not something different, and to be always brutal, to be always fast and technical. And maybe it's also something that, how can I say, maybe to show up also that this is not just a music done by some people that not able to play any instruments, for example, but by showing up that there can be technical stuff, there can be some stuff hard to play. It can show people that in this music there also are musicians, real musicians, and that they can be able to play something really well, really technical, really precise. And maybe it has something to do with the evolution of the music, of this extreme music.
No.
But this is just my point of view.
Okay. So, well, Patrick, the sad times arrive at this interview. I hope you enjoyed this one as I did, and thank you
Thanks.
very much. Thank you very much for your time. I hear all the time this new album is a great one, as usually from your work, and you are a wonderful guy with a killing machine band, and with this new Killers album. I hope someday we'll see you alive, perhaps someday. So, do you want to add something to your Latin American fans and Metallium readers?
First of all, thanks for the interview. I really appreciate it. And I hope we will have the opportunity to play live again. Yeah, not in the near future, but maybe one day. And I hope that people will also like this new record because, yeah, it's different from what we did before, but it's really what we wanted to do. So I hope people will like it. And again, thanks to you for this interview and for your support.